Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Simply Sketchy. And today I have once again managed to convince Bleach to join me here and do another episode. Hello, dude.
You say that, but why have you not removed the restraints and the net from my face?
Because last time you managed to fucking get out of it, this time I'm not taking any chances.
Fine then.
Yeah. Also, I told you the ammunition trick would work. Ah!
Yeah, but I thought that was rather dirty, putting 308 on the side of a van without windows. I mean, what are you doing, man?
I mean, I get why you would do it, because holy crap, that's the most expensive trap I've ever made.
True,
So yeah, I get it. I get it.
At least these traps aren't not for YouTube safe.
Yeah, I don't do those kind of traps. I got standards. That's for people of different kind of persuasions in life.
Yes. Hello, Dankula. Hope you're enjoying. Your Honor.
Yep. Femboys are gay, and there's nothing in the world that will undo that fact.
And Bezik's gonna have to edit that.
What, gay isn't a bad word?
Oh. All a matter of perspective.
Well, if we're going to use a British word, it's happy.
Yeah. Very.
Yep. Like that Australian ice cream. Well, if anyone have any sort of pattern recognition, you can probably guess, since I brought an American here and we like talking about cryptids with him, you can probably see what I'm going to do here, who I'm going to draw.
Yes.
Yes. What is this, Bleach?
So this is Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yowie, depending on if you're on a small island-based continent, and by small island-based continent, I mean a continent called Australia.
Yes.
Yeah. Some I've heard them referred to as woolly boogers,
Boogers, not
yahoos.
boogers?
I've heard it either way.
Oh, yeah.
In Maryland, I've heard it as woolly boogers or woolly buggers, and then in North Carolina, I've heard it woolly booger.
Aha. Yeah, that
Don't
fits.
ask me why.
It tracks. It's North Carolina. Oh,
But,
boy. And the funny thing is, though, this is the least dangerous thing you'll ever find in Australia. So, if this thing actually is real, yeah, it's one of the least dangerous things you'll ever find in Australia, because the kangaroos can drown you, by the way. And they will.
I mean, the Yowies I have always heard of as being more aggressive than the like the Ozark howler is basically just loud and obnoxious kind of a cryptid. So
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
but we're talking about the country where there are ostriches with horns that will literally just drop kick you.
fair enough. And yeah, it's so I thought this would be kind of an interesting one to do. As we've all heard the stories of Bigfoot or Sasquatch, Almas, Yeren, Yeti, and the list goes on and on.
Yep.
But this is the thing I think of as very interesting, because we don't need to go into all of the myths and lore. It's pretty straightforward, but I'd like to touch on some of the more obscure parts of Bigfoot legends.
Go on.
And it's not just in North America or Australia. These creatures have European analogs as well. Like the Green Man or the Wild Men of European folklore. And the Wild Man of the Woods, I think, is one of the other phrases. So
I haven't really heard much about them, but thinking about it, there are some similarities to some of the, at least Yetis, as well as in some forms, like selected pieces of the Scandinavian trolls.
Yeah, and I think that's something. Yeah, we get a little bit hung up on kind of like this modern view, this modern interpretation, but it goes back well past the 1967 Patterson Gimlin film, which, if you ever watch some of the restored older footage, not the copy of a copy of a copy of a copy,
Yeah.
you do see some weird features that you cannot easily replicate on like a man in a fursuit. It's very strange.
You're talking about the big black monkey guy walking upright, right? That footage?
That yes, the Patterson Gimlin. Actually, that apparently is supposed to be a female. Because they in some of the frames you can actually see the breasts of this creature swinging.
Huh.
Yeah. It's absolutely wild. So if you watch a good clear copy, and yeah, it's like maybe a 3-minute film, and you see the way it walks it's hard to replicate for people, because they tried doing that. There was some guy who said that he was the hoaxer, and they tried to make him do it. He just couldn't. He could not walk the exact way that it is you see in the film. And that's just fascinating to me.
Yeah. Question: do you want the hands to be on each side of the tree, or do you want them to have like that as I did first?
I like it on both sides of the tree.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, please continue.
So yeah, so you get like these weird stories. Again, veracity is always in question. You just do not know. And interestingly enough, like the Patterson Gimlin film was supposed to be more of a like kind of docudrama about the hunt for Bigfoot, without actually planning on capturing anything. They'd rented it was like a Super 8 video camera, and it was just very, very much supposed to be just kind of like a docudrama, and it really wasn't intended to be this bit of famous footage. Which, again, that moment of like, wow, this worked out weird.
We didn't intend for this to happen, but I'm kind of happy it did.
Yeah, exactly. And it, again, you watch some of the frames, and it's like you see this creature have swinging breasts when it turns. I was like, what the heck? That should not be there. It's like you'd half expect to see a wristwatch more than anything else.
Yeah. Or that the dude is angling his mask a little bit as he almost stumbles and falls, but
So, yeah, it's one of these things where it's very easy to dismiss just because it's a man in a suit. And then because there was a suit maker in, I think it was North Carolina, that claimed to have made it. And got, basically someone offered them a reward. Said, yeah, show us how you do it. Well, they couldn't do it. And it's like, okay, guys. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with kind of disproving or proving this, but let's have the discussion.
I love it when like things that are about cryptids is you can see how it could be fake, but you can also see that it could be real. And again, it just adds a little extra hint of mystery to the world, dude. That's something we really need these days.
Yeah, more so than ever.
Oh yeah.
But there's other stories, yeah, and again, most of the popular ones are American based, but you get stories of I'm trying to remember. I think it's like the Yaren, which is in China, and it's close to the Yeti / Abominable Snowman, but they have a very similar modus operandi where they occasionally will like kidnap women.
Yep.
And there's actually another famous story, and I wish I could remember the name of it, where one would like kidnap kidnapped a man, so its daughter, there's like a family unit, its daughter could have a mate. It's what is this?
Chinese loneliness.
I guess so.
I mean, we're talking about the country that when a siege happens, they look at the population defending and think, rations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's also this I think all too easy, and I've really come to dislike skeptics with these, not because they necessarily are wrong, but they go in with like the most basic, kind of almost insulting answer, where you get some of these characters, these cryptids from history, and the people reporting on it, like, yeah, I saw this thing and it doesn't make sense. Oh, well, yeah, it's just some stupid yokel. Well, that stupid yokel has been hunting and fishing their entire life, and so is their parents and their grandparents and multi-generational. And it really makes you question.
The armchair skeptics and specialists basically just go around being like, "Oh, we know so much better than you. We are educated, don't you know?"
Yes. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, you must have just seen a bear standing on its hind legs. But if you've seen a bear standing on its hind legs, even at a distance, you know it's a bear.
Oh yeah.
I've seen grizzlies and black bears and another type of brown bear up on its hind legs, and I know the difference. And I'm not a great outdoorsman, but I know the difference on sight immediately. And then when somebody says, hey, I see this bipedal creature that walks kind of like a man, it makes me have a bit of pause and say, okay, well, you've been a hunter your entire life. You would know what a bear is. So I'm not going to just assume. Could be another type of misidentification, but I'm willing to say, okay, you saw something that isn't natural, isn't normal to what you're used to seeing.
And then it's also a whole, they immediately attack that person's character, like, oh, he was probably drunk or something, or high or something.
Yeah. And it's always interesting that the more weirdly detailed ones, and I also mean more believable, are the ones where it's like the individual is stone sober and they have a good reputation in their community. Still, someone will try to, oh well, you're wrong, you're full of it, blah blah blah, and it's like, I have a hard time dismissing it.
I mean, there's a reason why people from towns and villages hate people from the city, because those people are usually city people or cosmopolitanly minded.
Yes. Yep. And so one of my favorite Bigfoot stories, and one of the rarer ones,
Right?
is usually when you hear about the Bigfoot stories. Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but occasionally somebody will take a pot shot at one and completely misses, or it hits the creature and doesn't have any effect or anything like that.
Because
Well,
it's supposed to be freaking massive, right?
yeah. And the interesting one, one of the most interesting one, comes from Daniel Boone. Now, are you familiar who Daniel Boone is?
Sadly, no.
So he's one of the big American explorers, real man, not a mythological figure.
Oh.
And he claimed to have had a encounter with a Bigfoot.
Hmm.
And not only him, but also his son. So just little background on Daniel Boone.
Go on.
Born 1734 in Pennsylvania. He went down into Virginia during the Revolutionary War, was a militia officer. Let's see, ended up going into what's now considered Kentucky. So spent a lot of time out there, got married, had several children, had TV show made after him, has a fairly famous theme song, Daniel Boone, blah, 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 blah. But he's an interesting guy because he settled Kentucky. We've got a place there called Boonesboro that's named after him. He became a... Let's see. Was he? Yeah, I think he was a member of the House of Representatives for a while. So, interesting guy. Had a son named Daniel Morgan Boone, who's going to be important here in a moment. And yeah, so again, fascinating guy. I would encourage anybody interested in him to do the research, just go through. But the story that happened is he's up along the Ohio River, and he and his son, that's Daniel Morgan Boone, I think they just referred to him as Morgan a lot. Well, they went hunting, and they got separated a little bit. And I think you'll have to forgive me. I think it was like somewhere around a place called Warrior's Path, which there's a very specific, like it was kind of like an old Indian trading path and whatnot. And so he and his son were hunting, and while they were, separated, he hears his son fire a rifle. And then, as quickly as one can load it, another shot goes off.
Were these the kind of rifles that were where you fired it, and then you had to open like the hatch and the cartridge came out, and then you put in a new one, right?
No. These are muzzle loaders. These are muzzle loading rifles. So that usually takes a bit of effort. This is, so it's a rifled barrel. It's more severe rifling than what most people are used to. And you have to put a patch in there so it fills up. So it takes a little bit of time to load these things. And it's one of those, it's not just, bang, reload, bang. There's a bit of time involved. So Daniel Boone, again, he's got a reputation as a crack shot, sees this big, hulking, hairy man over his son. And he comes up and shoots it in the eye and kills it. And this is where it gets interesting, because his son had shot it prior in the chest, and it did nothing other than annoy this Bigfoot. And actually, I think he referred to it as like a wild man.
I mean, I could see why.
But he Daniel Boone shot it in the eye. Well, they went to skin it, and again, there's a good quote, and I wish I could find it. But they talk about trying to skin it and finding like this really thick kind of like the ribs were all merged. It was more like a plate under the skin. So where our ribs have gaps, he described this wild man as having like a solid bone structure in the chest area.
Like a solid trunk or a box of bones.
Yeah. And that absolutely blew my mind when I heard that. Because it's like, wait a minute. This was not like him going around and boasting about doing this. It was more of a, this happened, and I'm kind of reluctant to tell it because people don't believe me. But if you think about it, it's like if that's the case, where there's this big, thick, bone-like structure over its heart and lungs, and that's natural, center of mass is where people are taught to shoot, always have been.
Yeah, it would make sense it would make sense why a chest shot wouldn't get through solid bone plate. Mm-hmm. Especially considering the kind of gun they used back in the day. It would certainly hurt, I'm sure, but
yeah,
it wouldn't kill.
Not the way you would think of it, in the modern era. And that really got me to thinking: is that why we've never had a successful incident where people were shooting Bigfoot because of this? The physical structure of such a thing is that different than what we're used to?
Could be.
Yeah. So yeah, that just blew my mind thinking about it in that regard.
I love it.
And
it's kind of cool too, because solid bone structure, it's that's something that the Space Marines of 40K have. Instead of a rib cage, they just have this armored box of reinforced bone that replaces their rib cage.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
GW steals their idea from everything, so wouldn't surprise me if they took from that.
Yeah. It's just, again, you start thinking of these creatures in ways that aren't, where they're like separate. They're just slightly different from us evolutionarily.
Yeah. These guys don't seem supernatural. They seem plausible. Potentially real even.
Yeah. And, I'm not going to say, I know I have Well, I'll save that for later, because I do have a personal experience or two. But when you think about it, it's like, okay, these creatures very clearly communicate. And one of the big things that I've heard talked about is wood knocking. So it's like you take a stick and you beat it on a tree, and occasionally you'll get a response, not an echo. It's always reported as being rhythmically different or too much of a delay. So that's always...
You beat a stick and suddenly someone registers and like, yeah, hello.
Yeah.
Oh, that would freak me the fuck out, dude.
Yeah.
That's honestly just a little bit of a personal horror thing in itself, because you walk in the woods, minding your own business, enjoying your day, and then sometimes you just see you see a stick, you do the only man thing possible to pick up the stick, and sometimes you feel like, how hard can I hit this stick against said tree? You do so, you make a lot of noise, and suddenly, noise comes back.
Yeah. That's the thing where it's like, are you really alone in the woods?
Yeah, that's like, okay, yeah, I didn't wanna go to sleep anyway tonight. Sleep is overrated.
So this is kind of where I get into it gets interesting.
Go on.
Realm. So you have that incident. You have the really famous Ape Canyon incidents, where supposedly, I think it was like 1920 something. This group of, I've heard it as miners or loggers. I can never keep track because there's always variations. And they talk about like a 7-foot tall group of ape-like animals basically attacking where they are, and they're like throwing rocks and things at this hut.
Like the ends from Lord of the Rings.
I think, I mean, that's basically the same kind of situation, but yeah, the men survived. It was overnight, and because apparently the creatures are primarily nocturnal.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I've heard that. Oh well, this has been completely debunked by the Forest Service, which I'm sorry, but
expertison did totally say this was completely false.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, just trust the system.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, so you've got that. You have I wish I could remember the name of the man. Something Oatman.
I'm sure Bessic will be able to find it and display the name down here.
Yeah, and that's the guy who reportedly got kidnapped by a Bigfoot, taken to, and this was also the Pacific Northwest. Maybe it's Ostman. But he talked about being kidnapped.
Wait, and Ostman like in OST?
Yeah, as an Eastman. Yeah.
No, Ost is with the that weird O with the slash through it. If he is OST, he is cheese.
Cheese man?
He would be cheese man, yes.
Cheese man versus Bigfoot.
Who will win this epic battle? Isn't fucking Norwegian language interesting?
It really is fascinating. And he talked about being taken in there and held captive, but not like maltreated or anything. And they apparently tried to feed him and stuff like that. He was like carried off in a sleeping bag, I think he referred to it as.
Really?
Yeah. And then
neighborhood Bigfoot.
Yeah. The fascinating thing was apparently he gave Bigfoot like either snuff or chewing tobacco, and it was just like it freaked out. And, yeah.
No, wait. So the dude had actual he was kidnapped by him, and he traded with it, gave it different things, introduced him to different things like snuff and shit like that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, here comes the regular type of Dresden Files references, because a Bigfoot is one of the main side characters in some of the stories. In one of the side stories, right? And this guy, first we introduced in Interviews with Bigfoot, I think it's called. Been a while since I read that one, actually. And when Dresden goes to talk with the Bigfoot, he offers him like different kinds of Pringles and stuff. And the more often they meet for each succeeding story in that short story, because it's a collection of smaller ones. He gives him like, it starts with Pringles and beer, and then it goes over to whiskey and tobacco. They're just more and more like, they become real good friends as time goes along.
Interesting.
So that's basically Trim's recurring advice to give Dresden Files a read or a listen. It doesn't really matter which, just do it. Just don't do Bigfoot. It's it's still too close to a monkey, and we know what happens if that happens.
You get Bay State?
Yeah, do we really need more of him?
But yeah, it's like you get these kinds of stories, and you get some that are more obvious hoaxes. Where it's like, I think there's like some used car salesman, Reggie or Rick Dyer.
Yeah, he sounds like a very trustworthy individual.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, it's like goes out and makes the fake feet and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, I get it. Yeah, people are gonna want to cash in. And that's human nature.
Yes.
But then you get other stories where like was the Fook monster, I think, is one of the more famous ones, where it's like let's see, Loggy Creek creature. It's said to have like basically like pushed some fisherman over and stole his fish and things like that, where it's like, what is this? And also a terrible odor, like just really horrendous odors have always been associated with the Bigfoots.
Well, it kind of makes sense. Large, hairy, monkey-ish.
I mean, I figure there's like a musk of sorts.
Yeah, musky would be the least. That would be the problem.
Yeah.
And if they have sweat glands like humans, I'm pretty sure primates don't smell good. I've never been close enough to a monkey to try, and I don't have any intention either, because I like keeping my face.
Yeah, I'm with you there. What is it? There's one in Louisiana called like La Bête Noire, which is in some swamp somewhere. And you've got like skunk ape is another. But the thing I always find interesting with these, it's always very like fleeting stories that it's like but it's not a single isolated story. A lot of them are several people over the course of a couple weeks, kind of like Mothman. And then it's just like the viewings just stop. And to me, that's like, what is this? You know, what is this methodology? Are they nomadic creatures? Are they?
That would make sense.
Yeah.
In again, in the original, in like the Dresden Files stories, what was it? The Bigfoots they're divided into different kinds of tribes. One is violent, basically called Grendelkin. So now you know why Bigfoots don't get along with Vikings. Yeah, they have a history. Essentially, they do walk around a lot, and their naming conventions are kind of inspired by Indian. So, like the Bigfoot Dresden has, and I need to make a little bit of a correction. The book this happens in is called Working for Bigfoot. So not Interview with Bigfoot, it is Working with Bigfoot. And the Bigfoot he's working with is called River Shoulders. He has a much longer name, but Dresden just calls him River Shoulders.
Well, so because it's interesting. So you've got and I'm going to butcher it, but I'm going to try.
Has it stopped you before?
Infera Lethmore, which is
Lethmore?
the big gray man of Ben McDewey in Scotland.
Really?
Yeah. Now this is like more of an intermediate, like intermittent, where it's like not really seen in the same way, but it's kind of thrown in.
You said it was Scottish?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the Gaelic name you just said, right?
I tried, yes.
Because it sounded kind of French, because, Lemore.
Yeah, it may have sounded it, but it was not, yeah.
I should probably watch out for disco and bass tape next time I talk to her.
Yeah, she's gonna get her steppy stool and whip you into shape. That's yeah. So there's that. There's and I always find like the European wild men kind of fascinating because they fit in, but they're not quite a perfect analog.
I think the European wild men are based on like the old German tribes. I don't remember what they were called, but sort of like they were sort of like wilderness savages, went around, drank the blood of their enemies. Romans had a fair go at them, and they kind of struggled with them for a while.
That's one version, but I've also heard of, and I wish I'd done the digging ahead of time. Some of the wild men in Europe, especially like the Green Man, in some stories are depicted as being fully covered with fur and unable to speak a human tongue. And eventually they get they get freed at some point.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's not, and then of course we've already talked about the Yowie and the all that, but it kind of it begs the question: are these real, or are they interpretations, or is there more to heaven and earth than in your philosophy, Horatio?
There's definitely more between heaven and earth, but I don't know if the wild men of Europe are real. Mostly because of how broken Europe has become and how fine-combed it's become.
Well, here's the thing. I would argue that you could have had at one point, a Bigfoot in Europe.
Yep.
And we're talking something that may have been there 700,000-800,000 years ago or more.
Yep.
And because of the human population, any of these creatures would have left, gone to ground, been exterminated, what have you. So,
Or here's another idea. What if they, during the Ice Age, immigrated because of the competition from Europe? I'm pretty sure there was
well,
fiercer competition for resources in Europe than in America.
quite
And
possibly, yeah.
yeah, and they could easily they could have most likely easily walked across Europe, then across Russia, and then the crossing between Russia and Alaska.
Now you're jumping ahead of where I'm wanting to
Oh,
lead you.
whoopsie daisy.
Yeah. So this is kind of so you're definitely right. Competition for resources is much steeper in Europe than maybe anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
as far as like
this
a
is
large geographical area.
at least for the times, because let's face it, most proper civilized nations developed in Europe, meaning most of the resource hungry countries developed there. I mean, it first
Mm-hmm.
started in Mesopotamia and those areas, but afterwards, when most started happening up in Europe, that changed.
Yeah, and because there's probably some still some relict species there, but by and large, I would say that if there were any of these creatures in Europe, they're long gone and more just like in folklore
Hmm.
that they got left.
Well, now,
Where
okay, you can continue because I just got a little bit of a thought, but finish, please.
well, and so the ones that survived, fled, got pushed out. They're more likely in more wild areas, and it's much harder to hide a population of large bipeds in Central and Western Europe. Eastern Europe, maybe, but there's been so much war through the ages. Something like that may have been driven out or destroyed by then anyway. But so you get the those populations being pushed out, and that leaves Africa, Asia, Australia, the Americas. So
Yep.
when Europeans start making it to North America, suddenly they're running into something that is wholly alien and would have been gone by several thousand years.
Yep, or in some cases, a blast from the past. Who knows if there was actually rivalries between the two? Kind of like maybe how the Neanderthals and the Homo sapiens went at each other.
Now you're really getting where I wanted to go with this. So it's interesting because more modern studies. So you had the Neanderthals, Homo sapiens, and the Denisovans,
Right?
all roughly in the same time frame, overlapping in certain areas.
Yeah.
So what if? Because I don't know if I've ever seen really good and can be proved analysis of the Denisovans, the Neanderthals, and we could even say a Heidelberg man.
Mm. Yeah.
Or it's like,
Again, I just want to bring up something before I forget it.
mhm.
Again, if they were in Europe, walked around, interacted here and there, maybe some of them remained. Now, if I'm gonna bring this thinking camp on and bring it as far as I can comfortably do it. You do know that the trolls in Norwegian or in Scandinavian folklore are massive, hairy, foul-smelling creatures who could quite often decide that, lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And would often kidnap people too if they felt so inclined.
Well, that's interesting. You bring up the eating of people, is in what is it? The Pacific tribes. Drawing a blank. But yeah, they talk about cannibalistic tribes, and I'm like, okay, so there's possible, feasting on humans. Well, if you've got, Neanderthals, Denisovans, Heidelbergens, Dias, all in contemporary time with modern humans, is it possible that, it's like, well, it's kind of looks like a human, but it's not, because it's clearly more hairy, and it's not dressing in other clothing because it's more primitive.
It doesn't really need clothing. We only developed clothing because we kind of needed it to survive.
Because we're not fur-bearing critters for the most part.
Yep. Essentially, these guys were, in some circles, aren't they, like, still considered to be the missing link between humanity and primates?
Some of it, yeah. But I just keep thinking, it's like, what if, because we've all run into people that have a lot of body hair, like a lot. And it's like, so if you had more, non-standard human features, like, no, I'm not going to go there. Bezig probably knows exactly who I'm thinking about after the podcast recently, but no, I'm not going to go there because I don't want this channel to get struck.
Thank you. Boy.
But it's one of those. If you see someone who is, their features are less evolved, shall we say, it would be very easy to go, oh, more like monkey.
Yes.
And to me, that's like, all right, well, if you're mistaking some of this, and there's like, somebody did a reconstruction of like Turkana Boy, something like that. Can't remember where they are in the evolutionary tree, but
I mean, there are images when people talk about like proto-Europeans. When you go so far back in time that, let's be honest, Homo sapiens wasn't really a thing yet. There were a lot, like, the reconstructions always give them like the forehead similar to that of apes, large hulking things just hanging over the eyes.
The very pronounced brows, things like that.
Yep.
But if you've got a human that, again, I'm willing to bet sport facial hair, well, they're not going to have the same access to shaving technology that we would, so they're more likely to keep their facial hair.
Yep. Though,
they're probably
to be honest, this fella here, he has a beard because he knows it looks good. He's a real man.
You put sunglasses on him too.
Yes, because he's that cool.
Exactly. But yeah, it's like, you think about it, and if you're catching a fleeting glance of someone, and they're bearded and their facial features are a bit abnormal to you,
Yep.
I could easily see where people are like, oh yeah, that is monkey. So yeah, I think this is where it gets into we may have some, and I think the term's relict, not relic, but relict with a T. Like Neanderthals or Denisovans or Heidelbergensis. And it's just unknown. And they're going to be built differently. They're going to seem more powerfully built than the standard human. They don't have the soft lives that we do. And
The question is,
if
though,
you
would
look
it be
at
as intelligent as us?
they could be, but they might not have. That gets into the depth of knowledge, because if they're living in more rugged terrain, they're not, maybe small family groups, things like that. They're not going to have the same level of intelligence that we would.
Yeah,
And
they wouldn't have the same need for innovation as us either. Because if you have a body that can withstand almost anything, like if we go by the solid rib cage kind of thing, if you
Mhm.
have a body that can handle almost anything, you don't really need innovation that much.
No, and that's the thing. I think, and you're connecting all the dots wonderfully. It's like there's so much of this where they're going to be very primitive in a lot of ways, and if there's small populations like this that are left, they're going to be very elusive. They're going to be very difficult to really track down. It explains their vocalizations, because they're not going to have a very formal set of linguistics, because they're not in larger communities.
I mean, you have the
And
what's that in the oceans down? What was it between I think it's between India or India and Australia somewhere. That tribe of
yeah, the what well, you've got pygmies there, but I think you're thinking about is it Homo florensius?
yeah, the guys who, if you try to get close to them, will literally just kill you with arrows. And
Oh, you're thinking of the North Sentinel Island.
yes,
Yeah, yeah. You definitely have that as an option too. Um, I was thinking about some of the older extinct species.
oh yeah,
But so this just popped into my head. It's like, you're familiar with the coelacanth, correct?
not that much. Sorry.
So the coelacanth is a type of fish that was long thought to be extinct,
Right.
and then they found out that it was very much alive.
Yeah.
It had just gone to a different set of depths of the ocean, and it is still alive and healthy, and it's something that they thought went extinct like 66 million years ago.
Huh.
Yeah, and it's
In your face. Nature wins. I guess.
pretty much, yeah, because they captured one, and I was like, wait a minute, this fish, this shouldn't be, and it is.
Yeah, I mean, innovation and all that. And hell, going on the opposite end, because some creatures just evolved to survive in harsher areas. Because if you're able to survive in places where few things can go, you pretty much made it in terms of evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you can conquer an area that others can't, you pretty much won the race in that region, and you're pretty much just guaranteed a spot. But in the opposite side, if we go to the crocodiles, they haven't evolved much in the time. Sure, different
No.
variations and lengths and widths in their snouts and tails and general size, like alligators, caimans, but their basic shape is still the same all over.
Exactly. And there is, let's see, Coelacanth is one type of Chinese redwood. Apparently, some forms of lobsters, wasps, were considered extinct and then found. Sea urchins.
Oh, they will never fucking die. They're like the fuck.
No, they won't.
You can actively try to kill every single one of them, and they will find a way. Even if you start even if you start cheating with pesticides.
But it's one of those. I look at something like that, and then you've got again these small, small relict populations possible. I mean, the woolly mammoths, like the pygmy woolly mammoths survived up until a fairly contemporary time.
Yep.
And
like pygmy woolly mammoths,
they finally
were the
died
ones
out.
who were. How big were they again? They were relatively small compared to like proper mammoths. They were what, a third of the size of a proper mammoth?
Yeah, I mean, it's something ridiculously small.
Yeah, and that also would help because smaller bodies needs less energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder what the Bigfoot has to eat, because if it's that big and powerful, it gotta have one hell of a metabolism.
Yeah, and maybe it goes into hibernation states as well.
Ooh.
I mean, that's something to question,
I mean, it could be it could be like a perfect opposition to man, where we have pretty much just essentially stopped developing our bodies much more and instead focus more on the mind and the societal changes.
Mm-hmm.
These have just gone hard into developing their physical traits. So like they're not Homo sapiens, but similar to how you had Homo erectus, and they're another byprocess of the Homo species.
Mm-hmm.
So these could just instead have been those focusing to just stay in the wilds, not gather into the same kind of communal clusters of Homo sapiens, choosing to stay out and weather the weather instead of hiding.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just one. I just don't. I don't want to rule it out because we have had so many species that we thought shouldn't be here or should not really thrive.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like, yeah, okay, it's here. It's been here for a while, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, because we don't know as much as we like to think we do. Suddenly, we go around, nothing can survive there. Suddenly, there's a freaking crab that likes to hang out around thermal vents down in the deepest of ocean, munching on whatever comes out from there.
Yeah.
Which is highly toxic, by the way.
Yeah, it's I find it hilarious because it's like, oh, we're supposed to be extinct? Okay, well, I guess we will. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'll mention that in the next meeting. Thank you. Oh, like, of course, then you have the completely different side of the pseudo dire wolves that they started creating now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a way of bringing it back, but those aren't real dire wolves, so it's basically just juiced up regular wolves that have been tampered to be just bigger and stronger. And of course, it also helps that their genetic likeness is something around 99.8%. So that also helps. You get them there, but they're not quite there. So that's why pseudo or false dire wolves.
Yeah, well, it does get into some of the ethics of these creatures.
Oh yeah, like It's something else when they do it themselves, or through. I think it wouldn't be selective breeding; it would just be breeding for survival.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have this, which is more like made in a lab. Feels a bit more dirty than usual, and I mean, I do have some more open views in some forms of genetic modifications, but I draw the line on trying to bring back something that has been lost to time.
Yeah, well, because it's one of those I've heard people say, well, we could bring back the dodo. It's like, should we though? Do we really know what that would do to yeah, larger population?
Yeah.
Or are we that arrogant where it's like, oh no, we're gonna go bring back these things?
I mean, they went extinct for a reason. There are things going extinct almost daily. Mutations
Mm-hmm.
that never get the opportunity to get purchase in the world.
Yeah. And sometimes when things are gone, maybe they should stay gone.
Yeah. And how about we don't play God? I think I don't know how many movies there are where life finds a way. Despite humanity's attempt to constantly screw with it, nature will look at you, laugh, and then kick you in the nuts when you're not looking. It's just waiting, dude.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think we're setting ourselves up for lots of unintended consequences.
I think they're kind of intended. It's just that the consequences are going to be completely different than what they expect.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so. Yeah, that's kind of my wider thoughts on, what Bigfoot could be.
Yeah.
Is it some sort of like relict species of hominid that we're just because we haven't found one up close and personal, or is it something else altogether?
I mean, it could be pretty much anything. Hell, it could also be that they're much smarter than we give them. They just imagine if they're sort of like a race that chose the Amish lifestyle.
Ooh,
Incredibly
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, because this is inspired. Where was it from? No, originally this idea came from somewhere else. I don't remember. Was it a green text? Some shit. It was something, talking that in ancient times, humanity and these lived in harmony, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had the day, they had the night, and they had advanced biomechanical technology. They turned living things into machines, right?
Mm-hmm.
And humanity basically saw that, were scared shitless, even though these creatures didn't really do us any harm. They would just, want to grill? Sure, we just want to grill over here. But it's sort of one of those, oh, humanity bad stories, typically, right? So humanity got scared, wiped them out, or almost all of them, and the ones that remain, they basically reduced the intelligence of and turned them into Bigfoot. But
So
I'm more, again, the thought that struck me now was, what if these are just really that powerful? They're just as intelligent as us, but they don't have that desperate need to control everything. They just more than happy with just doing their own thing, just living.
Yeah, the simplicity of life.
Yep.
Although, I guess my big thing is, have they just decided to become more, or maybe even not actively decided, but are they just that much more in tune with nature in a sense?
Yeah, that could be it, because again, Amish, they do have a choice and sort of like religious conviction.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the people like those in Ruby Ridge who just decided to do it because screw society. We just want to do our own thing. Let us be in peace.
Yep.
But I'm thinking, in this case, at least the one I've started brewing up my little head now, it's less a decision and more an instinct, a biological imperative. They do it because it is right for them. Again, the drive and the need to expand and grow and learn as we humans do, that is pretty much a human thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could say some of that ants show a similar trait to a certain extent, but it is far more a animalistically driven need for conquest and resources for the ants than it is for humans.
Well, see, I don't know. I think we might be talking about, something where just because of our, brain capacity, because if we are talking a relic species of something that is human but not as evolved psychologically, where 'cause a dog is just happy, with being fed, having its belly rubbed, and that's all it needs.
Yeah.
Where because of our advanced intelligence and drive, for good or ill, we tend to want more
Yes.
out of life. And I think that's something where we've got, when you look at another species that may be close in sentience, but it's not going to have the same capacity of reason, the same desires that your average human would.
Yes,
It's survival. It's
You're getting
survival.
right to it. Because, again, it goes back to what I said earlier about if you have all you need, if you have a body that can handle anything, your mind doesn't need to evolve that constant need of growth. Because we evolved to develop ourselves machinery more out of a need to survive, because we are incredibly vulnerable, all things considered.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at we're the one species where to reach full sexual maturity takes over a decade.
Yeah, over a decade, and put us against most of the animal kingdom, we won't even stand a chance unless we at least get to have a pointy stick. So we decided, okay, fine, we'll take the pointy stick and we'll improve from there.
Yeah.
However, imagine if we never needed the pointy stick, if we could just lift rocks and throw them like catapults without needing any extra leverage.
Or, because often, and I find this interesting, and I threw it into the chat, and hopefully Bezic will pull some of these up. The wild men of Europe are always depicted as carrying like trees and tree stumps and things like that. And that's some of the wood knocking comes from with the Bigfoot stories, and throwing boulders and logs and stuff like that. It's like there's a common theme here.
Oh, so cool.
So yeah, it's one of these things where there's something more to it, and all the skeptics in the world telling me, oh well, it's not real, this, that, and the other, prove it. Prove that these things aren't real. Prove that there isn't something where, and maybe this gets back into some of the other conversations we have where the fabric of our reality is slightly different than we understand it.
Yep.
And time may not be linear. Maybe time has fluctuations. Maybe we have parallel universes that fold over onto each other, and we're seeing ourselves in a different form.
Not the worst form to have, actually, to be honest.
Yeah. So
it could be so many things. Like, I really like the wild men of Europe kind of look there. Yeah, that would definitely be like a European take on the Bigfoot, essentially. At least on a
Exactly.
creature, similar creature, large, hairy, mighty, wields an entire
I
tree as a weapon.
Man-like but bigger.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they
That
also
that's
and they did like to add human features. When they drew things, they like to add human features to their drawing. So, meaning
Mhm.
someone with a more monkeyish face. Hell, when a knight would describe having to fought one, or like a man would have described, okay, I encountered this. It was big. It was like this. The artist will be like, okay, so kind of man like, okay, I'm adding this and this and this. So instead of
Mhm.
having that nose, that beard, instead it is something more like this, maybe.
Perhaps. Yeah. And that's a fascinating thing. There's so much that is interpretation of certain time periods where you have certain prevailing thoughts. Like now, Bigfoots are portrayed more as being ape-like. Well, maybe if this was a big deal 100 years prior, where it's being talked about this same way, they might be portrayed more human.
Yep.
And then another century behind, before that, they're portrayed as a kind of the Green Man, where they're um, kind of animal plant hybrid or something like that, just because it's hard to see
Yeah.
past that initial break in pattern recognition.
Indeed. And it could also be that maybe, again, different tribes have different traditions.
Mm-hmm.
What if one tribe colored themselves differently? Use different kind of powders to make themselves look differently.
Entirely, yeah. And yeah, you enter various yeah, tribal folklore here in the United States. It's like sometimes they're opposition to the tribes. Sometimes they're in kind of a friendly relationship. Sometimes they're just this creature from somewhere else that they don't understand, but they leave it the hell alone.
Yep.
It's just something where there's so many interpretations, and it's very difficult to pin down one interpretation as the right one. Um, some of the places in the Pacific Northwest, it's very much they are kind of protectors of the forest, so you don't go and destroy things.
Yep.
And in other places, they're predators, and they're there to keep man in check.
Yep. Again, like, dude, I'm pretty sure that Jim Butcher does a lot of fucking research
Mm-hmm.
because he does have what was the name? They call themselves their own tongue. They call themselves the Junosqua, the Grendelkin, basically. They're the
Mm-hmm.
ones who are brutal and bloodthirsty and savages,
Hmm.
and they are very, very capable fighters. Harry meets one in another book. Yeah, several books ahead. These guys have a tendency of coming back, but like the second time he meets one in the main series, it's one of the most hostile ones, and Jesus, he is a brutal monster.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
While River Shoulders is a far more passive,
mm-hmm.
nice. Of course, he is still able and willing to unleash a ton of kick-ass on whomever deserves it, but he was always tried to talk first.
Hmm.
Yeah, like he's the kind of guy who will try to get a suit fitted for him and put on a pair of glasses just to look more friendly.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know, the
Hmm.
Genosqua? You have a little bit more knowledge about the names. Is that something from like Native American lore?
It's not ringing any bells, but there's so many different tribal tongues and even if it's like the same language group, they might use very different word, because I think the Cherokee had Sulcola. Then what is it? Suchomis is somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, there's a like Sasquatch is a change of, was it like Humboldt County, California, or somewhere out west where it's like that's a different name for the same thing, or Sitaya.
Oh, dude, that drawing you just sent me on the stone. That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah. And
I don't know. It's that shape there that always gets under my skin.
fair enough. I can see that.
Yep. You send these to Besic too, right? So he has them.
Oh, I was sending them to you so you could send them to him.
All right.
But I can do that direct.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's like so many of these names are varied, but they all seem to kind of come back to the same kind of creature. And it's always this semi-intelligent but not fully human creature.
There's a pattern. There's always a pattern.
Yep. And yeah, because you hear about with the Yowie and the Yarans, and they have very similar behaviors in lots of ways. You know, whether it's the tree knocking, whether it's like the abduction stories are common in certain areas, things like that, where it's like everybody wants to like isolate it. That's make it like a 1960s and on thing, when you've got stuff that goes back millennia. I am sure if you read one of the histories of the Romans, that you could possibly end up saying, okay, this is possibly a Bigfoot.
Yeah, hell, you can even have the Jotun. Like massive creature, human-like, hairy, incredibly strong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but that's a good way to have. I mean, you could even, again, while lacking the nose size that became popular in Norwegian folklore later, they could also fit trolls, as I said before.
Yeah. What if it's just enough of a difference where it's like, yep, these are technically trolls.
Yep.
And you get some stories about. Oh, it's going to take me a moment to recall all of this. But there's always been like stories of like red-headed giants in North America.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard similar stories pop up all over the United States, and always talking about these giants that are basically gingers, and these fossils showing up from time to time, or there's tales of certain tribes driving them out because they're supposed to be cannibalistic tribes, things like that.
Yeah.
Just there's so many variations on these stories that it's hard to say, okay, this is all just in a vacuum, this is all BS. Like, no, there's something to it. There's some reason why these stories never quite go away. They're always on the fringe, but they just can't quite dismiss them entirely because there's something to them.
Yeah. They stick around, basically.
Yeah. And they get reinvented, reinterpreted, and I think that the biggest problem is people want to just dismiss them as, you know, kooks and whatnot. And it's like, but it's happening everywhere.
Yep.
How can you dismiss something that is so widely seen? And
Well, attention seeking. People,
yeah,
you know, the many attention seekers tend to be screaming, "Oh no, he's just seeking attention." Right?
hmm
I think it might be a little bit of they're projecting themselves onto it. Like, oh, I would have done the same if I could.
oh yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I think one of the great tragedies, in a sense, is, you know, the people that do often see these things will not talk about it because they don't want to get laughed at, mocked, made fun of, etc., etc.
Yep.
Where maybe there's something very easy and very, you know, where, yeah, you can go and document these things.
You can
And
talk about your interactions with these things and not be laughed at. Like,
yeah, yeah.
of course, people can believe almost anything, and there might as and for all we know, there might be just a crazy dude in a suit having a laugh at us.
Oh yeah.
But what if it isn't? What if it isn't a
And
surprisingly dexterous man in an incredibly warm suit on a sunny day up in the mountains? I don't know about you.
yep.
I'm willing to do a lot of shit for a joke, but I am not doing that to myself for a fucking joke.
No. No, and it's it's something where I can't in good faith dismiss something like this because I have had my own encounter with something that was in a similar vein.
Please go on.
So this was a number of years ago, and a buddy of mine, you know, we decided to go car camping. So we went up, found a good
Wait,
spot.
you just took a car and just camped in that, or was it
Yeah.
other? Okay.
Yeah, it was just like that time of year where it's like weather was looking iffy. We didn't really want to put together the camp with tents and all that.
Fair enough.
And we were also trying on our night vision goggles.
Cool.
And that actually plays a big role in this. So,
So night vision goggles let you see something that otherwise wouldn't be seen, huh?
oh yeah.
Did you have a campfire?
No, we didn't have a campfire.
There we go. Okay, continue. Sorry, I just had to know.
So yeah, we just kind of like, all right, well, we'll just, you know, hang out here. We you know, went to dinner beforehand, set up, and yeah, it felt the atmosphere was a little heavy, and there were a couple other people in that general area, but they were all, you know, so if you've got the top of the mountain, we were about a third of the way down from the top, and everybody else was below us, and we would know if somebody would have driven past, because it was like multiple miles to get. It was about 3 miles or more to get from us to the next vehicle, and they were all, you know, big campfire and that kind of camping. So that night we heard knocking coming from up the hollow. Didn't think anything of it. Heard one of the cars pull out and leave that was below us, and again, we're talking probably 1.5 to 2 miles to that vehicle, and then below them was another 1.5 miles, so 3 miles away. And okay, so yeah, it gets very close to pitch black in up here, and we go on a hike. You know, we've got our infrared stuff on. We're not using visible light at all. And like, okay, yeah, so go on like half-mile hike. Nothing much, just kind of getting used to walking around. And again, we hear this occasional like knock on a tree off in the distance coming from the top of the mountain. No big deal. Well, maybe it's just woodpeckers or something like that. Go back to camp. Call it a day. And it's probably like 2 a.m. So we've been asleep in our own vehicles for probably 3 hours by then. But he gets up, go to the bathroom. And I know this because, we have a conversation almost immediately after, because he goes up the road a little bit and I hear him come, knock on the window of the truck. Like, hey, you got to see this. Like, all right. And he's like, grab your goggles. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, fine. So we go into the road, and you can look up the road, and there's maybe 200 meters. About 200 meters, like 75 yards or so, something like that.
It's a fair distance, but enough to see relatively clearly.
Yeah, you can make out shapes very, very clearly.
Yeah,
and we're seeing this figure. Looks about 7 foot tall, let's say. Yeah, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but it's somewhere around that.
A really grown-up guy in case of that.
Yeah, I mean, and my buddy, he's like 6'1".
Right.
And it's like, we're both like, what the hell is that? And, we have an infrared spotlight and we shine it up there. And it's like this just black humanish shape that's a little out of proportion. And like, okay, what is that? And again, this is happening fairly quickly, and we just see it kind of like go back out of the woods, back into the woods off the road. And again, this is Appalachia. Yeah, it's fairly heavily wooded, so we can't see it, but we hear something just very briefly, kind of like tree branch break. So that gets us kind of like, what the hell? Rest of the night passes, nothing happens. I do catch a bit of a weird odor at one point, but nothing major.
Okay.
And then it's like between our vehicles, there's about, I don't know, like a 2 meter gap between our vehicles. There was this tree stump, and it just had like feathers just like covering the tree stump. They hadn't been there the night before. Like somebody plucked a turkey, threw some feathers on it, and went away. This. Yeah, it was the damnedest thing.
And you said it broke off a stick, and what, during the night or the day you felt a little bit off odor?
During the night, yeah. I can either be a really heavy sleeper or a light sleeper. Yeah. And I was a light sleeper that night.
I do think I understand why. So what, you think there was a possibility that it noticed you as it walked away and it just repaid the favor by doing a little oogling at you guy?
Pretty much, yeah. It came by to fuck with us.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I look at it. It's like, yeah.
Oh, so you wanna try to do one of the night creeps at me? Okay, fine, I'll bite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, you saw me. Well, all right. I'm gonna screw with you. All right. Thanks, buddy.
We got a system here. If you start looking at me, I gotta start looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
And my buddy is not a big believer in Bigfoot or anything like that until that night. And then we're both like, we saw something. It moved like a person. It was too big. And we know there was nobody up that road.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that Tyrone ain't walking up there in them hills.
No. No, not at all. But yeah, and we went, the following day, and combed the road, and just we went up to where we thought we saw it. There was a tree branch broken off in the woods. But no footprints, no nothing. But dirt road, people driving on it, stuff like that. So it's like probably not going to see much of anything. But we looked. We made sure we looked, and it was like, yeah, it's time to get out of here.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely, we're in something else's space right now, and let's not keep that going.
Yeah, that might enforce castle doctrine with actual catapult rocks.
Yeah. I think the thing that got us both really weirded out though was the feathers that just were thrown in on this tree stump between our vehicles.
Oh, between your vehicles.
Yeah.
Huh. That's probably when you start feeling the weird smell.
It could be. It was just something where it's like, this is uncomfortable because something came right here and did this, and unless some bird committed homicide or something like that.
If a bird killed another bird to that extent, I think you would have heard it, because birds are kind of known for screaming when they first do something.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know what I encountered that night. I have my suspicions. But yeah.
Well, obviously, Bleach, it was just a weird guy in a suit pulling a prank on you,
Clearly.
throwing feathers between your car. What else could it be?
Nothing, clearly.
Yeah. No. And that thing in Salem? Oh, it was just two guys standing on each other's shoulders. No worries.
Yeah. Go to Salem, Massachusetts. See two guys in a fursuit.
Yes. Yeah, that's actually kind of scary to think about that. Watch houses off. Jesus. Yeah, well, let's hope you don't find the fursuit instead. That's that'll scar you for life in different ways.
But yeah, it's just such a weird.
It could also be that this happened to you because you are more open to this. You can see this. Because there are things where people are able to notice things while some people aren't able to see anything. You can point them directly at it and they still don't want to see it because in their heart of hearts, they don't want to see it. So even when they see it, their mind blanks it out.
Mm-hmm.
It could be since you don't have that, because you are generally a rather open-minded person with a strong sense of curiosity. You might actually be one of those, I want to see this, and I can actually dare see this as it is.
I'm going to say there was a period in my life where I'm trying to understand it, so I look for this stuff more. But it just started out that way, where it's like, hey, guess what? You're going to see things that a lot of people can't.
You like bears,
by the way? You.
You like bears? You like big bears? Because we know a rock.
Just big bears, yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I just don't. I don't know why. I think this has to do with people's ability to process different things in such a way where it's like, oh, okay, yeah. say you get two people in a room and they both see the color blue, but you're going to see a slightly different shade of blue
Mhm.
because of the chemical construct of your body.
It's like that dress where you see different colors, right?
Yes. And that's how I view the supernatural world, where there's something different between me and somebody sitting right next to me chemically, where I can see these things and somebody else can't. Or, somebody vice versa can see a lot of other things that I can't just because of the body chemistry, or the frequency at which one hears. Yeah, like people hear slightly differently, things like that.
I mean, it could be anything from like state of mind to I mean, it could be so many things. Like,
Hmm.
again, I bring up Dresden Files because again, this kind of theme also goes it goes similar there. It is your willingness to accept what you see,
Hmm.
because the supernatural world is there, but it's sort of out of sync, but it is there. And many people who see it, they go into this sort of like denial immediately. Like, oh, this doesn't happen, this is happening. Nope, this is not happening, this is not happening. No, there is not a giant conglomeration of flesh and bones currently eating my car.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. Eating your
Yep.
car. Hmm.
Yeah. Or rather, I didn't think eat car. I think it crushed a car.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
I,
interesting.
I I think it's just something where it's like you need to be able to understand this instead of just no, it's black or white. We've got to prove it, 1,000% scientifically. It's like, yeah, but can you
Yes.
prove to the average man on the street the existence of atoms?
Without using extremely weird high-tech stuff that needs an entire room to
Yeah,
function.
yeah, and it's that's to me is like, come on, guys, we can understand things through the scientific method. Why aren't we applying that, and not in a just start out purely skeptical, but in a genuine trying to understand way? And a lot of times, when I've read researchers that have done that with various supernatural and paranormal things, they always have more questions than they have answers, and I
Yep.
prefer that approach.
Yeah, again, I like when we have mystery in the world.
Hmm.
Tolkien was right, you know? Not everything here's the thing. He explained a lot in detail, but he kept so much like out of notice.
Mm,
So he gave you an extremely detailed description of this area,
right.
but he would never quite give you everything of how things worked. How did that apparently sorcerous item get there? What was the thing there? Where is its origins? What
Hmm.
are the Ents? No, they don't even remember themselves anymore. They're just that old.
Yeah.
Again, it's this cult of science that is around nowadays. It demands absolute knowledge of everything, right?
Hmm.
That is
Yeah.
impossible. We can't know everything because everything is infinite. It's like it's the universe itself. You can't know the whole universe no matter how much you try. And
Hmm.
we can know enough to live in it, to survive in it, which is honestly the entire reason for us developing the capacity to get and gain knowledge.
Hmm.
It's our way of evolving past our limitations. We don't have a massive body that can take a rifle shot from the olden days and still keep going. We don't have eyes that can see in the dark. We don't have hands that can rip stubs from the ground.
Hmm.
No, we're just here. We have We have enough strength to wrestle a pig to the ground, but we have no chance in hell of killing it unless we have a knife, at least.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
A knife or a rock or some tool.
Yeah. And even then, that'll be messy as hell. Now
Mm-hmm.
imagine if we didn't need any of that. We had everything we needed just from our mere bodies. No need for clothes, no need for any extra stuff. Everything we
Mm-hmm.
needed, we had on us, a part of us. Suddenly, life would be a little bit different, wouldn't it?
It would. And yeah, I think that's something where I think we're just too dependent on the scientific method.
Yeah.
And I remember an interesting quote. I think it is attributed to a Russian scientist. And basically, it's like, Western science won't believe any of these things are even possible until it's dead and stuffed on a wall or in a museum.
That is really true. Scandinavians didn't believe lions existed until we had one taken to us in a well-made manner. The first stuffed lion was a failure because the dude didn't know how a lion actually looked. He was just given the skin and a bad description.
Yep.
Yeah, just go and check Swedish taxidermied lion. It is, oh boy, it's a thing. It is botched as hell. Though, to be fair, the taxidermists had never seen a lion. He just went by a description and gut feeling.
Okay. Well, that ended poorly.
Yeah, you see you found a picture?
No, I'm looking for it though.
Yeah, just the right taxidermied lion, Sweden. I think it's Sweden or Denmark. It is ridiculous.
Oh dear Lord.
Yeah, there you go. And Besek will show it off on the screen as well.
Oh my goodness.
That is a lion, apparently.
That's the derpiest lion I've ever seen.
Yeah, the tiger with Down syndrome looks more, less downy than that.
Yeah.
By the way, can I get your eyes on the screen? Because I am almost done here. What do you think
Yeah,
about the black-white shades here?
I'm liking it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe could you like brighten the sky a little bit?
I think I can. Because what I did is basically a single layer with dark. So I could do like this.
Ooh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Beautiful. So, he's out there looking in the dark, looking right at you.
Again.
Yes.
I'm going to name him Steve.
Steve the Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, you found the Lion King version.
Uh-huh.
I like how it gave him. Look, it gave him fucking human teeth.
Oh my. Oh, that's just amazing.
Yep. So that gives a laugh, and this is what And also, this is what happens when you're trying to do something without any kind of knowledge of prior. People can try to describe it as well as you can, but if you don't want to know what you're doing, you ain't got a chance in hell.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah. If you want expertise, go for expertise, not experts.
Oh no.
That is so fucking cursed, isn't it?
Oh, it gets better.
Its face is completely flat, by the way. Oh, dude. Looks like one of those fucking Five Nights at Freddy anime automatons.
Yep.
Oh, that's glorious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is that is apparently the true line. Everything else in that picture there is a poser.
Uh-huh. I believe it.
Yep, totally. You can see the animal cunning in its eyes. Honestly, he's fucking more scared, covered in blood, than the actual lioness is covered in blood.
I know.
I'd be
It's like,
more
yeah.
scared of of this thing than a regular lion. Because this would certainly do my soul to hell if it killed me. A regular lion would just fucking kill me.
Yeah, and kill and devour this thing. Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why.
Let's not talk about the horrors.
No, maybe that's why the Sasquatch said, you know, screw this. We are doing the Amish style from now. Get the fuck out. We know what you will do.
I would make myself scarce if it's like, yeah, are they gonna do this to me?
Yeah. Fuck it. I'm gonna grow more body hair. Just get the fuck out of here. Start doing squats and bench presses. So yeah, on that note, I have now concluded the drawing. Bleach, what do you think? Happy with Steve?
I am.
Excellent.
I'm very happy with Steve. Steve Squatch.
Steve Squatch, there you go. Now to a cinema near you, in the forest, behind your car. Look out for turkey feathers.
Yeah. Jerk.
Well, and with that, I would like to give my thanks to Robert Renato for letting me use the music you've currently been listening to throughout this episode. Thank you very much for your hard work. And Bezic, a big thank you to you for dealing with all this, doing the edits, showing the pictures, and doing the autistic deep dive of just text mining to just display to people. Thank you.
He's welcome.
And of course, a big thank you to everyone who's taken time out of their day to join here and watch or just listen to it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. And of course, to you, Bleach. Thank you very much for doing this again. I'm really looking forward to next time.
Oh, hey, I enjoy going on these kind of random deep dives into the cryptid world and trying to at least get it out of, oh, this has to be weird and spooky. It's like, no, it can be very real. So that's always a fun investment of time.
Yes. That it really is. Well, and with that, everyone, have a good day and goodbye.
See you later.